Hey, it's Dr. Gold. We're up to the chapter here on retirement planning. For some of you, this might be a really critical chapter, depending upon what stage you are in your own lives. For others, you might feel like, well, gosh, this really doesn't matter all that much. I'm young, I don't really need to plan for it, or that you don't have the resources to plan for it. But my hope is that by this point in the semester, because we're getting toward the end here, that you've um, you've been able to determine that it's never too early to start saving and building wealth for your future. And this is really important for retirement because when we start to think about things we're afraid of in the future, at different ages and different cycles of our lives, we worry about different things. You might be worried about how you're going to pay for college and pay rent. Other students in the class might be worried about how they're going to pay for the education of their own children who might not yet be in college. Some people worry about the economy. Some people worry about terrorism. Some people worry about healthcare related issues. But at some point in your life, if it hasn't already happened, one of the biggest concerns is going to be, how do I potentially have the opportunity to stop working and live off of money that I've accumulated throughout my life? And for many people, sadly, it's just never going to be an option. They're just not going to be able to not stop working because Social Security just simply won't be enough, and they neglected or were unable to save money over that period of time. So I think it's never too late to start saving. Obviously, if you're in the class and you're younger, you're in the like under 40 years of age demographic, you have an advantage over people that are above that age demographic because you have more time. But if you're over the age of 40, you certainly have time to accumulate some wealth as well. But what I want to show you is something that's very important and often overlooked, and it is the effect of inflation on the value of our money. So, you should know this from having taken the course, but simply put, if you have $100 today, and the rate of inflation, let's say, has averaged about 3% over a long period of time, that means that in 1 year from today, you'll need to have $103 to be able to consume what today feels like $100, because the cost of stuff goes up over time. Another way of looking at it is that in 1 year from now, the $100 you have today will only be able to purchase you $97 worth of stuff in 1 year from now. So because inflation erodes the value of money over time, the goal is to obviously invest money and earn a higher rate of return that is above and beyond the rate of inflation. So we've talked in previous videos about the stock market being, one of the places that you could consider investing in. And, the average annual return on the stock market has been about 10% or so. But you have to back out inflation off of that. So you have to really say, well, 10% minus 3% is 7%. That's probably a more accurate assessment of how my money will grow over a long period of time if I invested in the stock market. Whereas if you have your money in just a savings account today in the bank, and savings accounts are paying very, very low rates of interest, less than 1%, you're actually losing money having money in the savings account. I mean, your money is guaranteed because if the bank closes, the federal government guarantees your money. But because you're not earning more than the rate of inflation in a savings account today, your money is eroding in terms of its value over time. And this is an important thing to be aware of as you move forward. So here's a calculator. I'll put a link to this. It's from Investopedia, and it's a future value calculation. It's a simple calculation that you can do on your own calculators as well. But let's say that, in your mind, the number of dollars that you think you need to have in the bank is $1,000,000. Okay, so you put that in here, let's say in the present value amount, $1,000,000 today. You're thinking, gosh, if I could have $1,000,000 in 40 years from now, I should be set for retirement. So you say to yourself, well, okay, Professor Gold has mentioned that money erodes over time, so $1,000,000 today is not going to be worth $1,000,000 in 40 years from now when I'm ready to retire. So how much money will I need to have in 40 years from now for it to feel like $1,000,000 feels today? Well, what you do is you put in the amount of years before you plan to retire, and let's say we'll just put 40 years in because that's what I've been mentioning, and then you put in the inflation rate of 3%. And what this calculation is going to tell us is in 40 years from now, assuming a 3% rate of inflation, how much money do we need to have saved to feel like we have $1,000,000 in 40 years from now? And the answer to it is going to surprise you. You're going to need to save $3.2 million for you to feel like you have the buying power of $1,000,000 today. This is important to understand because if you don't plan for those things, then you end up not having enough money in the future for the stuff that you want to be able to do. So what I would recommend you do as part of your planning and moving forward in terms of your financial planning for your retirement is to try to come up with some dollar amount and say, gosh, if I had X number of dollars, I would be able to stop working. It's not to say that you would stop working or would even want to stop working, but you'd have the option of stopping to work if you decided to do that. Whatever that dollar amount is, and it might be a lot more than $1,000,000. Some of you might say, well, gosh, for me to stop working, I would need $50 million. So if you put $50 million in the present value field, and you did the same type of calculation, well, it's going to be a ridiculous amount of money. I mean, it's huge amounts of money that you would need to have in the future for it to feel like $50 million. So a more realistic thing is for you to say, I've got, I don't know, let's say 20 years before I retire, and I want to have, let's say, $1,000,000 in 20 years from now. I think that's right. So in 20 years from now, $1,000,000 will feel like $1.8 million. So that's the amount I would need in 20 years from now. Or if you're 15 years away from retirement, you could change those numbers and it'll tell you what in 15 years $1,000,000 will be equivalent to. So as you're planning, play around with these numbers, think of a dollar amount so you have some sort of plan to strive toward, and this will help you in terms of understanding retirement planning and all that goes into it. The other things in the chapter that are covered that covers retirement planning are things like Roth IRAs and traditional IRAs. These are retirement plans that have different tax incentives and benefits to it. So make sure you read the chapter that covers this so you're aware of what those differences are. And also be aware that in many jobs today, when maybe you have one of these jobs right now, companies will offer 401k plans where you have a certain amount of money taken out of your paycheck, and then the company might match a certain percentage of whatever it is you come up with. So you might have 3% taken out of your paycheck, and they'll match up to 3%, or sometimes it's 5%. It's really important that you take advantage of those retirement plans when they become available to you in a job that you have. All savings and contributions towards savings for the future will mount up over time and make a significant difference in your life as you move forward.